All right, welcome back, everyone, and here's another video for you today. This time featuring a Master League Premier Classic team that got me not only to Legend, but also to the 3200s this season. If you look, the team is over on the right side of the screen over there, and I'll explain a little bit about it in just a second here, but just to give an idea of how good this team is, within the span of the day before Go Battle Day and the first two sets of Go Battle Day, I went from the 2700s to the to Legend, and then also just playing about half the battles in Go Battle Day, and then the next day I ended up breaking 3200s. So I hit 3201 with this team. I also managed to get in top 3 on the leaderboards, and the global leaderboards with the update earlier today. I actually, since getting these screenshots and putting together the layout for this video, I actually have gone up even a little bit more than that. I'm at 3214 now, I believe, using the same team. So it is very effective, and it's very effective at various ELO ranges, not just strictly at the top, since I was able to use it to climb nearly 500 points. But just to go into the team a little bit, if you'll take a look, we have Excadrill lead with Florges and Snorlax in the back. Now, if you've seen a lot of my videos before, you'll know that I'm kind of a fan of unconventional team compositions, meaning ones that kind of defy normal team building composition rules, I guess, or norms, you could say. Because a lot of times, people will tell you, okay, you want to build a team where you have 2 solid answers to your lead's biggest weaknesses in the back. That way you have a versatile way to get out of bad matchups and possibly lure out the counter to your back Pokemon. But those of you that see my videos know that I kind of play a little unlike that. I like kind of playing counter meta, not necessarily counter meta Pokemon, but counter to the meta of team building compositions. ABB teams are very, very popular. Basically, the teams I described right there, and especially in Master League Premier Classic, you see a lot of ABB teams. It might be, Dragonite double Steel, or some team with double Fairy in the back. Gyarados double Charms is a very big one. So a lot of people run double similar type Pokemon in the back, or double weak to the same Pokemon types in the back. So normally, if you were using that kind of logic, you'd probably think, okay, we'll have a Florges lead with Snorlax safe swap and an Excadrill in the back. Snorlax safe swap will lure out a fighter, and Excadrill can sweep. But I found this team to be more effective with an Excadrill lead, which ends up giving you very little play against fighter leads, but fighter leads seem uncommon enough where it's not that big of a problem. If you do run into a fighter lead, your best play is to just sack Excadrill. Against everything but Haxorus, you'll win CMP and you'll outpace. So you can either get a shield advantage in the lead or get them low enough for Florges to farm down. And then Snorlax with 2 shields usually does well against the back line of a fighter-led team. Like Haxorus double steal, Machamp double steal, Conkeldurr double steal. All popular lines. Snorlax has a decent amount of play against steel-type Pokemon. And even if they don't have double steal in the back, Florges may have play as well if they have something like a Snorlax safe swap and swap to that to preserve their Haxorus or Machamp lead. I'm going to go into video footage of my battles in a second. But just to go over some other common matchups, people ask me about what do you do against the Waterfall Gyarados lead. Typically, I throw 2 Mudshots in the lead because you want to have a little bit of time to determine whether it is a Waterfall Gyarados, because Dragon Breath Gyarados isn't too bad for Excadrill. You resist the Dragon Breaths, and even though Dragon Breath is an oppressive move, you outpace to Rock Slides and can threaten shields. I believe you still lose the 2 shield, but you can get it low enough and potentially grab both shields if Gyarados wants to go down that far. But against Waterfall Gyarados, if I throw 2 Mudshots, I'll get hit by 1 Waterfall, and then I swap into Snorlax at that point. Gyarados leads are typically soft weak to Snorlax. I mean, it's possible they could pair it with a fighter. It's definitely a possibility because then they have a hard answer to a Magnezone, for example. But a lot of people I found tend to have, different things in the back. Something that Snorlax has like a soft matchup against. So typically they stay in with Gyarados for a bit to try to soften up Snorlax and then maybe swap into their own Snorlax or something like that. And then you could potentially farm down and bring an Excadrill loaded with energy later, because even a Waterfall Gyarados doesn't want to see an Excadrill that has a lot of energy because Rock Slides still threaten it. And other potential bad leads that you could run into, obviously fighter leads, I covered that briefly. Basically just want to sack lead. Dragonite leads. Dragonite is tricky now that it has superpower because you do lose the 2 shield to Dragonite with Excadrill. I believe they could go straight superpower as long as they tank a Rock Slide before they start debuffing themselves, but most of the time they'll just throw some Dragon Claws. Shadow Dragonite could actually go straight Dragon Claw and win the 2 shield versus Excadrill, which I took advantage of last season or not last season, but the last time they featured Master League Premier Classic. But basically, Excadrill usually has a lot of play in the back of Dragonite lead teams because Dragonite lead teams need answers to Fairy Pokemon. So they'll have typically a hard answer to a Fairy, like a Metagross on the back, in which case you absolutely need Excadrill to be preserved. So what I tend to do is I throw a Rock Slide soon after I get it, before they get to a Superpower potentially. And if they no-shield it, I'll try to build up a little more energy and predict when they'll throw their first charge move. It's tough because people have different timings of when they decide to throw their move. Most of the time people will throw right before you get to your second Rock Slide. So I'll try to switch into Snorlax at that point and basically sack Snorlax. If Snorlax ends up switching into a superpower, oh well. Excadrill with loaded energy will have a lot of play later. So that's typically how I tend to play it. I'm not afraid to go down 2 shields in the lead, as long as I preserve the Excadrill eventually before they get to a potential superpower when shields are down. So you do want to eventually swap into Snorlax, and then Florges, if you happen to win switch, you can get Florges on the Dragonite, but Dragonite at that point is low enough where basically Florges isn't going to have too much play. But anyway, that being said, let's go into some battles. Now, I don't have too many. I don't have any battles recorded from the latter part of my grind, but the battles I'm about to show were from my Twitch stream whenever I started in the 2700s, and I believe I went on an 8-0 streak to start the stream. So yeah, I just want to preface this by saying this was from my Twitch stream, which you can catch live at twitch.tv/Jason2890. I do showcase my battles. I try to stream a couple times a week, but it just depends on my schedule in real life. But yeah, let's go into the battles and see how it goes. So here's the team. I didn't go into IVs at all, or why I best buddied Snorlax, but Snorlax is the only Pokemon I have best buddied on this team, so that's why it's my best buddy. If I had my Excadrill best buddied, I would use that instead, but I don't have a 100% Excadrill, so I haven't best buddied this. Our first battle, we run into a Gyarados, and it is Waterfall. Now, this is one of my first sets using this team. I only threw 1 Mudshot there. Typically, I throw 2, because you can throw 2 Mudshots and still only get hit by 1 Waterfall. So that's probably your best course of action to maximize the amount of energy you got on Excadrill since you're taking damage anyway. Now, they stayed in a little bit to soften up Snorlax, and they brought in their Florges. Luckily, we got their Gyarados within range to get KO'd by a Rock Slide later. So they're in Rock Slide range already. Florges is building up energy. We got it fairly low. They're going to throw a move now. We're just going to let Snorlax go and try to build a lot of energy on Florges because we can survive anything that Florges can throw at us. Even if they happen to be running Petal Blizzard, it only does like 55-60% or so. This is just a disarming voice. So we're going to go up to nearly 100 energy. We're going to throw a Rock Slide here. And that's going to take out the Florges. They bring in the Gyarados. We're going to Rock Slide here. Anticipating they'll shield. But they actually let it go. So let's see what's in the back. A Charm Primarina. We get to this Drill Run, which is nice. And now we have 2 shields versus the Charm Primarina. At this point, 2 Disarming Voices plus a little bit of farm from the Fairy Winds and the Mudshots should take out Primarina, so I'm going to throw 1 there. You see it does about half of the remaining HP. There's no need to go for Moonblast. A lot of Pokemon in the Master League Premier Classic meta can be KO'd from nearly full health with just 2 Disarming Voices as long as they're neutral, because Disarming Voice is actually a decent move. They ended up top lefting there. I believe Moonblast is base 100 damage, and then Disarming Voice I believe is 70. So they're both actually decent moves. Moonblast, obviously helpful if you have the opponent, within range to get KO'd by 1 Moonblast, but it would take multiple Disarming Voices. We have a Dragonite lead here, so I throw Rock Slide on 6 because I know that is before they get to Superpower. So they decide they do shield. I tend to try to land a Rock Slide before I swap out of this matchup. So we're going to throw a Rock Slide here before they get to potential Superpower. They let this one go. And I actually switch into Florges here. I kind of consider this a mistake because they should have hard answers to Florges in the back with a Dragonite lead. This person, fortunately, did not bring in a Steel type. They actually have a Togekiss that they brought in instead. But I will just point out that switching to Florges there is probably a mistake. It's probably best to just sack Snorlax and then hope that Excadrill later on can sweep with energy. So they decide to throw Ancient Power there, which we survive. And we get to a Moonblast here, which will KO if they decide to no shield. And they do no shield. They'll probably farm down with Dragonite, so I don't want to let them get that extra energy, so I'm going to throw in Excadrill. I kind of miscounted here. I thought I would get to throw this move first, but alright. They catch on a Gyarados. This is a Dragon Breath Gyarados, so you could potentially get to 3 Rock Slides, but it's not, it's Waterfall. So we throw a second Rock Slide here. They shielded the first one, which is fine. And now shields are down. We have Snorlax. I think my plan here is to build up the 2 moves, or potentially even farm this Gyarados all the way down. Because I know Dragonite did not leave with the Superpower stored. And they would need a superpower from this range to KO me. I believe we'd survive a Dragon. Maybe we wouldn't survive a Dragon Claw, but either way, they don't have the move ready. I throw the Body Slam. I tried to reach for the superpower there just to BM a little bit, because superpower I believe would KO as well. But yeah, we win that one, so that was nice. We flipped another potentially bad lead. First 2 games, Waterfall Gyarados and Dragonite, right? And we ended up flipping those into wins, so that's pretty promising. You can come back from pretty tough teams. I don't know if I have any fighter leads in this, though. Like I said, fighter leads aren't very common. So we'll see. We have an Excadrill into Dragonite. This is a Dragon Tail Dragonite. They actually swap. Now, Snorlax switch-ins, I tend to just try to soften them up with Drill Run and then bring in my own Snorlax, and that way I can align Florges with the Dragonite later. That tends to be my go-to strategy. Because once you soften up the Snorlax, even if they have a slight energy lead, and this person has Skull Bash. I've actually seen that quite a bit. People running Skull Bash, which is interesting. I'm going to go for Body Slam here, though, just to try to put him in superpower range. I don't know if this even KOs now that they have the Skull Bash buff, but they do shield it. We go for another superpower here. They still haven't... I decide to catch a Body Slam? Oh, no. Wow. So this madman was running superpower Skull Bash. This is kind of crazy. So we're kind of in a little bit of a pickle here. We got a good matchup here with Florges into Dragonite. A little bit of lag there. They have superpower, so that's fine. We're going to farm this all the way down because we know the second superpower won't hurt too much. We're hoping they don't have a Steel in the back, but it is very likely. They have a Metagross in the back, so this is kind of rough. We're going to see if we can get to 2 Moonblasts. We do. So that softens up the Metagross quite a bit. And now we're with 2 shields here, they can't farm us all the way down. They shield that. See, Snorlax with shields in the back is kind of a beast. We're going to shield this. They have a superpower there. We farm it all the way down, then we throw the superpower at the Metagross because you know they're not another move. So that was actually, you know, despite the fact that Metagross is the absolute worst matchup for Florges, Florges was able to still take out a chunk of damage with 100 energy there from farming down that Dragonite all the way. And well, let's keep the battles moving. I think people in chat wanted to see some Pokemon I got during the event. So anyway, we have another battle here. Another Gyarados. This one's Dragon Breath, and I made a mistake. I thought it was going to be Waterfall, and I threw 1 Mudshot just to see. This is why I started throwing 2 Mudshots before switching, because it gives me more time to react. But yeah, they were actually Dragon Breath. We could have stayed in that lead, and they softened up my Snorlax, and then brought in their own Snorlax, which is a smart play. It's what I tend to do. We're just going to go for superpowers here just to soften up their Snorlax. Problem with this is that I believe I'm in Body Slam range now, so I'm going to shield this up because I want to try to get off 2 superpowers here to potentially win lead, or win switch. And if not, then get them low enough for Excadrill to farm down. We're actually able to farm it down there after they no-shielded that. A little surprising. They bring in their own Excadrill, which is kind of bad. I'm not sure what to do here. I probably, in hindsight, should bank a superpower, but I decided to just throw the superpower anyway, and then bring in my own Excadrill, which is kind of nonsensical. I thought they were going to try to catch on Gyarados here, which is why I threw a Rock Slide, but I know that they're going to shield it. And we're actually, I think we're going to let this go. Yeah. So I think my win condition at this point is shielding the Drill Run, hoping that I can Disarming Voice farm down the Excadrill, and then I could take down the Gyarados. We'll see how this goes. I shield the Drill Run because I know it's going to do the most damage out of anything that... Oh, that's what... I remember what happens here. This doesn't quite KO, but I switch in Snorlax because my switch timer just comes up there, knowing that they'll have to throw or they'll have to switch really quickly. So that catch ended up winning us the game here. The Dragon Breaths do very little to Florges. I'm throwing a Disarming Voice here to see if they're within range for me to throw 2 Disarming Voices and KO. I think I will KO with the second Disarming Voice, or at least be able to farm down, but just to be safe, I'm going to throw the Moonblast because I know I'll survive 2 Aqua Tails from here, and they're not going to get to another move on Excadrill before I can farm down with Fairy Winds. So, very, very tricky game. We made an excellent catch at the end just because our switch timer came up at a very convenient time. So, yeah, that was a little bit of a terrifying battle, but we ended up winning it. Probably needed a moment to catch my breath after that one. As you'll see, too, like, the only 100% IV Pokemon I have on this team is Snorlax. The Florges is just a Pokemon I got in a lucky trade. I think it's 15, 13, 15. Maybe it's 15, 14, 14. I can't recall exactly. And the Excadrill, I believe, is 14 defense as well. Which is why they're not best buddy, because I tend to try to only best buddy my 100% Pokemon. And, here, let's go skip forward a little bit. Okay, we're in queue again. Yeah, so we're at 2798 at the time of these battles. This is the day before Go Battle Day. All right, we got a battle. Excadrill into Snorlax. This is tricky, because it's a neutralish lead. They actually swap out of it, and they swap to Waterfall Gyarados. I probably should swap right away, but they shield and I bring in Snorlax. We could actually win switch here if we choose to. I don't remember if I decide to. Snorlax leads are a little trickier to predict. Florges usually has a decent amount of play against the back, so I don't think winning switch is necessary. And we survive this, so we'll be able to win switch here with another Body Slam plus lick damage if they don't shield this. And it would be pretty ambitious for them to lick us all the way down. They have a Togekiss, so this is fine. We're just going to bring in Excadrill here. And they bring in Snorlax. I'm going to bank a move. Yeah, bank a move and then swap into Florges. Because the Rock Slides later will come in handy against Togekiss. Body Slam does a decent amount of damage since this is a Shadow Snorlax. I'm probably going to start shielding here. Yeah, I am. Because Body Slams, I mean, Togekiss is not going to get to very many moves. So we're going to Moonblast here. See how much damage this does. Decent amount. We're going to Disarming Voice. Oh, I should have thrown that earlier. I think I wasn't keeping good track of their energy. So now we can farm up a bit more. We're at double Disarming Voice. I'm going for a Disarming Voice here. And I believe this puts him into Rock Slide range. We just barely survived to get off this last Rock Slide. Is this enough, or do we need to Fairy Wind down? Yeah, just barely enough. So we barely won that game. That's a 5-0 in our first set with this team. I believe I put up some confetti. Yeah, here's some confetti. I skip the boring part. We got a Metacham. So yeah, claim the set. Go up to 28-72. Nice gain. We're going to keep the battles going. Let's see. Oh yeah, I restart in between sets just to make sure the game runs pretty well. Here, we got another battle right here. Excadrill lead into Gyarados again. And it is Waterfall. I still was only throwing one Mudshot there. I should definitely throw two. Keep that in mind whenever you play this team if you give it a try. Throw two into Gyarados. Because that second Mudshot's basically free. Now, Primarina is actually kind of glassy. I don't think Primarina wins the 2-shield versus Snorlax unless you chip. Because they only need to land 2 Body Slams and can lick down. And they don't pace to moves very quickly. So they Moonblast there. Pretty good timing on the charge move throw. We throw a Body Slam here. They decide to shield. And we get to another move. Right before they're able to charm us down. So this is amazing. We have a shield advantage. And we won switch. They bring in Gyarados again. We bring in Florges at this point. And they catch on their own Togekiss. But this is perfectly fine. I think I might even farm up a move. Nope, I don't farm up a move. But that's okay. We can go up to 100 energy. Yeah, we're going to throw a Rock Slide here before they get to an Ancient Power, potentially. We're going to throw a Rock Slide after throwing one Mudshot, which is proper move timing there. You want to minimize the amount of turns your opponent gets. They decide to throw here. I could actually shield this and then get to another Rock Slide if they decide not to throw another move. But they do throw another move. But this is fine because they're out of energy now. We're not within range for an Aqua Tail to KO anyway. And we'll just get to another Disarming Voice. So that's it. We're able to take that down. We were able to win switch against that Charm Primarina. So Snorlax is kind of a beast. Now, if it was a Shadow Snorlax, that was a matchup that we would lose in the 2-shield because the charm damage would just do too much. But, you know, Shadow Snorlax and regular Snorlax are kind of side grades for this team. They both perform pretty similarly in most matchups and have, like, some advantages. If I had a good IV Shadow Snorlax, I probably would have used one on this team, but I don't. So we'll just use the regular 100%. We got a battle coming up right here. All right, Excadrill to Metagross. Great lead. This is where you want to see it. They have a Dragon Breath Gyarados. So here I decide, I believe I bring in Snorlax, right? Yeah. Yeah, so here's the thing. Florges has a very good matchup against Dragon Breath Gyarados, but the opponent probably has something that they're trying to lure out a fairy with this Dragon Breath Gyarados. So I'm anticipating they have a dragon in the back. I shield this because I don't want Metagross to be enticed to farm me down. If I shield that, then Metagross farms me all the way down and comes out with a ton of energy, But this will force them to have to throw into me, or I'll get a lot of charge moves off if they decide to try to farm me all the way down, which it looks like they are going for a very ambitious farm down. We're throwing body slams because we don't want to... Oh, man. We're going to throw a superpower here. This is very tricky. Oh, we don't get to that body slam. So this is actually pretty difficult here. Now, I think I'm just going to sack the Excadrill. But they end up bringing him a champ right away, so this works out even better. I just wanted to sack the Excadrill because I anticipated Florges would have a lot of play in the back, so if I sack Excadrill, I could just use the shield on Florges. Plus, if they go for a Meteor Mash instead of an Earthquake, then Excadrill survives, which is even better. We're going for another Disarming Voice here, and I think I'm going to try to farm down, right? Oh, man, this is rough. But yeah, we're going to no-shield this. Because they can't farm us all the way down and then get to 2 moves. We could survive a Meteor Mash here, so if I just shield... If they Meteor Mash bait, they can't get to Meteor Mash plus Earthquake. Because they're going to die in 2 mud shots, and it takes 3 bullet punches from 100 energy to get to an Earthquake after baiting Meteor Mash. So I think shielding there was just our we just win at that point. It's our win condition. I believe, let's see, do we have one more battle to show here? Okay. Excadrill into Florges, perfect. Snorlax, switch in. We're going to soften this up a little bit and then bring in our own Snorlax. This will allow us to keep Excadrill aligned with Florges later and give us an easier time in this matchup, in the secondary matchup. Body Slam puts in the superpower range. We're going to just no shield and let them do whatever they want to do. They superpower. We survived multiple superpowers from a regular Snorlax and the regular Snorlax mirror. So they could do that twice. That's fine. We're going to farm up a little bit more, and then we're going to Body Slam. The double superpower should put them within range for this Body Slam to KO, and it does. They're probably going to try to farm all the way down with Florges, but Fairy Wind does not do very much damage to Snorlax, so we could just pile on these Body Slams. It's already within range for 1 Drill Run to KO. They probably farmed close to 100 energy and are throwing Disarming Voice now, which is smart play. And then they bring in a Dragon Breath Gyarados, so this game's pretty much over. Now, one thing I did want to mention about this team, one thing to keep in mind is that since your only answer to Dragons and Fighters is in the middle and not in the lead, you have to make sure that you're not just bringing in Florges into whatever safe swap they bring in, even if it has a good matchup. Because most of the time, you have to understand the way people team build. If they bring in a Dragonite, for example, as a safe switch, Florges does a great job against it, but they're probably bringing it in because they have something else that's weak to a Fairy in the back, like maybe a Garchomp or Haxorus. They decided to quit there. So, fantastic win. We went on an 8-0 streak here, and I believe we would have gotten even more wins, but we had a lot of lag in our next game. So, it didn't go as well as we hoped. But anyway, that's the team. But just something to keep in mind. It doesn't play as intuitively as a lot of other teams. You don't want to just answer with your hardest counter. If they swap into Dragonite, before you just instinctively bring in a Florges, think to yourself, why are they bringing in a Dragonite here? They probably try to lure out a Fairy, in which case your best course of action is probably to swap into Snorlax after softening it up with Excadrill or grabbing a shield advantage and then hoping to win switch there so you could preserve whatever lead matchup Excadrill won to cause them to safe swap into a Dragonite. This is probably something dominating for Excadrill. And then Florges probably has a lot of play in the back. So that's just something to keep in mind with this team. If you do need Florges in the secondary matchup, and you think they might have something else in the back that you need Florges for, you want to try to preserve Florges, maybe run out the switch timer a bit. Sorry about that. Usually I have water nearby too. My throat's getting a little dry. But you want to try to stall the secondary matchup if you need to use Florges in it by throwing some Disarming Voices, maybe letting some charge moves go from your opponent. That way you can swap back out of Florges into Snorlax. You could always pivot back into Snorlax if you want to preserve Florges for later, because that will probably force them to bring in their final Pokemon. So most of the time, the leads that Excadrill wins, Snorlax also does decent against, like Metagross or Magnezone. So basically, try to be smart about predicting your opponent's team compositions. I will admit that my teams do not play as easily as a lot of other teams, because a lot of other teams are, okay, ABB team, they have a swap that you beat, just bring in your B, kill their swap, let it die, bring in your A again, and then bring in the second B to beat their back line. But this team requires a little bit more thought about your opponent's team, a little bit more strategy involved on knowing when to preserve Florges and when you could just use it freely. But anyway, hope you enjoyed the team. And I hope this helps you with your climb. I know that the Master League Premier Classic is not going on for too much longer. I believe it ends on Thursday, and I'm getting this video up Monday night, maybe Tuesday, depending on when it actually gets uploaded. But hope it helps you for the last couple of days the way that it helped me. And best of luck with the battles out there, trainers. We'll see you next time. Take care.